make an intro music.
We do already have intro music. Have you watched the podcast?
No.
Okay.
What's our intro music?
It's I think it's Feelings.
Oh no, I'm saying like a actual we record it for the purpose of.
Record.
All right. Well, we could
an actual like an
really should watch
ESPN music soundtrack.
That's totally
you
fine.
know, like,
You should definitely watch
da-da-dum, da-da-dum, Marina,
I was gonna
da-da-dum,
say-
da-da-dum, City.
Bum 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 bum. Marina City. Bum 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 bum.
it. So you like the what is that? Is that I think that's Monday Night Football.
Oh.
And you were doing Fox.
Yeah, I
we
was
did
doing
like
the Fox
a-
one. Yeah.
Bum bum. Da 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 da. That's the F1 theme. It's pretty good.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh
okay.
yeah. Sounds good.
Lame.
What is up, all you saints and sinners? Welcome to a new episode of Confessions of a DIY Musician. We are the band Marina City. I am lead vocalist Ryan Argas, joined by the two extremely talented best friends of mine, guitar player, singer, keyboard player, riffager of the night. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tota Brenejev. On this side of me is Eric, and we have a wonderful session. Eric, who does all the singing to
Yeah,
drums.
I was hoping you were gonna be like, I'm the lead singer. These are the junior varsity.
That's
That's what I.
That's Eric. He plays drums. He hits things. Plays keys.
That's still hitting things.
I guess so. Hits his vocal cords when he sings. Yeah, yeah. And if it looks different because we are in a different room, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our brand spanking new rehearsal space. This is our rehearsal space, right? This is the new Marina City headquarters. We're really excited about it. This is something that we've been working on for a really long time, and just really happy that we are moved in. We're ready to rock and roll. This is the first day we moved in. We just moved in just minutes ago, and we are recording our first ever podcast here. So
This is at Ryan's house. The address is.
no. It's just, yeah, okay, cool. So today's episode is that we want to talk about momagers and dadagers. We need to talk about the momagers, the parentgers. We have come across these when we've toured. When I was younger, had to work with my parents on these kind of things, and I think that it's really important to have this conversation, especially if you're just starting out in music, and what that actually is, what the benefits are, and also why you need to fire them. And I know that's not
Well, we
an
got
easy
right
thing.
to the
Yeah.
to the point
Right to the point
quickly.
there.
We know that's not an easy thing to do. It's your parents, but the sooner
Dad.
you're able to do that, the easier it can be. And you know what? We're going to time capsule this, because one day when my daughter Jazz decides she wants to do music, and then Papa Ryan is like, hey, this is what you got to do. I want my daughter to watch this and be like, Dad, I watched you 20 years ago, and it says I need to fire you. You said I need to fire you. So that is, Jazz, if you're watching this 20 years from now, this is very true. So momagers and dadagers, have you guys ever had any experience personally?
No, I mean, here and there, probably the same experiences as you guys. I don't really know how to truly feel about this, because when I do see a dadager or a momager, I'm like, okay, they're like kind of taking their child under their wing.
Yeah.
You know, they're showing them all the right paths, or, you know, kind of like there is no space to grow or learn the hard way type thing, because your mom or your dad is right next to you. And then again, on the flip side of things, I'm like, well, if I had a son and he wanted to become a musician, and of course I would try to show him the ins and outs, or, you know, guide him in a direction, you know. So I get both. I'm sure there's a nice little in between to both, where you can do both successfully. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Joe Armstrong, the singer of Green Day, I think he was on like the Late Night or something like that, and they asked him, your son plays in a band, what's the band's name? And he was like, no, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
And they were like, why not? And he's like, he needs to learn how to get himself out there. He can't just like ride on daddy's coattails and stuff like that.
Right.
And the band ended up being pretty successful until I think he got canceled. But the son himself. But that's a different
Yeah,
story.
we probably shouldn't throw out accusations.
I think something like that happened. I don't really know, but what I do know is that quote by itself, in a vacuum, I think was really cool. And I definitely don't want to say that, again, momagers and dadagers are not necessarily a bad thing. And like you said, they're I mean, that's their job as a parent. It's like, hey, I'm going to show you how to do this. And especially if they're in the music industry to do that. But sometimes it feels like it's technically not people that are in the music industry, or they were very, very like little bit in the music industry and like didn't have that much experience, and they're kind of living vicariously through their children. And that's where it gets really dicey on some of that.
Yeah, it's true. It's just like there's a fine line between being supportive and like overbearing.
Yeah.
Right? And I think obviously like we love supportive parents.
Right.
That's a great thing. I think we can all say we were fortunate to have parents who are hugely supportive
Right.
of us and what we do, and that is we recognize how lucky we are to have that.
Right.
And frankly, people who have momagers and dadagers are lucky to have that situation as well. I would infinitely rather have that than like someone who actively discourages.
Right.
Or,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we're gonna let's acknowledge right now that is a far worse situation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But no, I think there's just a certain stigma attached to the momager dadager thing. That's just, it's a hard thing to break out of. And I think when you surround yourself with people who are professionals and doing it quote unquote for real, and then they're exposed to someone else's situation, whether that's like an opening band that they're sharing a bill with that has a momager and a dadager, it just is like a bit of a turnoff.
Yeah, I mean, before we get too deep into it, I do want to talk about like the benefits again, because I really do want to say like, it takes a village to make this work, and at this time that you're hearing this podcast, we're probably still an independent band that is not signed by anything, no manager, no booking agent, no press, no label, and it's really, really difficult. Like, it's really the three of us really fighting as much as possible through this industry, but we still have a village behind us because we still have our wives, our girlfriends, our parents, friends, family that are still really supportive and help us in some way, some shape or form.
Let's say like none of us would be here without the support of our parents.
Exactly. Like, and I think everyone,
we cannot underestimate.
Right.
I will be forever grateful for my parents for being as supportive and amazing as they are. So getting the amazing supportive parent thing out of the way, because our parents were extremely supportive. The first time my bands ever rehearsed were at my parents' house. I mean, how many hours a day did we rehearse? Like 25 hours a day, hours a week. I mean, that we practiced, and they would just hear us like just banging away. And then when we were at banging away, I mean the drums, but whoa,
got caught up on that one. Huh?
Yeah. And then
like good times.
Man, I miss those days. And then when Matt was in the band and we were rehearsing at his parents' house for like a decade, plus, it's really nice to have those supportive parents. So getting supportive parents and how great that is out of the way. Talking about where does it get negative? And I think, you could totally say the stigma of it definitely gets negative. And what I mean but what is the stigma that people have with these momagers and dadagers? What is that they're like, whoa, is it just because that's your parent, or what is the parent doing?
Well, let's also like make a definition distinction. We kind of like jokingly in the beginning, you're like momager, dadager, parentager, but what we're really saying is mom manager, dad manager.
Yes, yeah.
That's the contraction, right? It's a difference between supportive parent versus a parent who is your manager, and sort of leading you into the industry, especially if they have no experience with the industry themselves.
And that's really where I want to go with it, is that like they just don't have experience. Now, like I know that like Billie Eilish's parents were really momagers and dadagers for a while, and there's famous people that are like that. I mean, freaking the Jackson 5, but these are bad. That's a bad example too, right? But like,
don't get me wrong. There's gonna be exceptions to this
rule. But I think what it comes down to is that you're having someone who doesn't really know what to actually do, and they oftentimes are either way too aggressively hard on you, or they're way too aggressively easy on you, and believe that you're literally the air that that people breathe. Like I can't tell you how many times that I'll meet these momagers or dadagers that like their child is the greatest thing to ever happen since before sliced bread. Like it's like, and so that's where it starts getting really funky, is that like the dad or mom will really start talking up the kid in front of everybody, and it's just like, okay, and maybe they'll put in tons of money towards the kid. They'll do all these things, except everything but what the kid really needs to do is practice and write songs. So it's like they come in and they got a light show and they got a sound guy and they got a trailer that has their face on it that they drive in. And it's like, this kid is, you know, oh, my kid's doing this, kid's doing that. And then the kid goes up there and it's like, they kind of like, you know, it doesn't even matter if they're like semi good. Right. You just talk them up so high that it just automatically gets like,
Yeah, I mean, granted, I do not have children, but generally speaking, I mean, even as a teacher, though, like I see it sometimes where, you know, parents will be like, my kid's amazing. Like, he's different than the other kids. He's amazing at the drums, you know, before like we even do our first lesson. And like, no doubt, I'm going to get students who come in and they're going to be great, you know, but to me, it's like, your child is always going to be the apple of your eye, and you're not going to be able to have an objective view of where they are at. And frankly, in this industry or really any industry, like you need to have that self-awareness. And a true manager is going to be detached enough to tell you where your weak spots are, to tell you, hey, this needs some work, or, you know, this is not good enough. And I think the dangers with having a parent as your manager is they're going to be on this extreme ends of those spectrum. They're either going to be aware that you are the greatest thing ever, and then they're going to be really extremely harsh about their criticism, like overly harsh and intense, or they're not going to be aware of like, oh, this is my precious baby, like all of that kind of feeling, and they're gonna just kind of baby you into your career and be like, that was amazing.
Right?
And maybe you did the whole song off key. You know?
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing the singing competition shows, there were a ton of them, and they're always really kind, but it sometimes feels like a dick measuring contest, where it's like, oh, she's doing this, they're doing this at this age and this age, and it's just like that puts me off. Like, I'm like, okay, cool, like, I mean, great, that's awesome, but I think the biggest thing is having a critic, and honestly, you mentioned that they're not going to do that on a manager is detached enough. Sometimes a manager's not detached enough, and you need to know that too. This is like not just single to a momager and dadager. If you have too many yes people in your corner and not enough people that are pushing you to the next level, then you need to get in a different corner. You cannot be the eagle amongst pigeons all the time. You have to be able to find yourself in a spot where you feel really uncomfortable, and that's the time where you can succeed and really push yourself. And I think that with a dadager and momager, it also becomes like a strain on the relationship sometimes. I think that it's really important, especially when you're young, that a momager or dadager, or maybe it's just a mom and dad that's with you and you have a manager, you have someone else doing it, or the parent is just really supportive, like, hey, you want to try that? Okay, cool. I'm there to make sure that you don't get involved in drugs or someone doesn't do something really bad to you. That's one thing, is being observant. But then there's another thing about being like, hey, I got to get really deep into this. Now, I will say that like this is a tough line, and especially as a parent now, and watching some documentaries like most recently that Nickelodeon documentary where like the kids were all in these like very bad situations with these guys who were doing like sexual things on set or even on camera, like literally. And Nickelodeon, some of the comedy was extremely adult, and the parents just sat back and was like, hey, we're making millions of dollars, we're making all this stuff, I'm not going to say anything, like this is, they know what to do. There was something about a parent that has to step in and go, hey, you know, I wonder if this is the right thing, you know, and that's a tough thing. But I think that having a parent that is maybe someone that is like the guardian angel, or like is like the more like, is that cool, questioning some stuff, that's one thing, but making their final decisions are tough.
Well, I think what's also important about this conversation too is that there's a sort of like, there's like a break point in the trajectory of your age and then
Yeah.
also your career. You
Yeah.
know, obviously when you're really young, your parents probably should be your manager.
Right,
You know, but then once you become like, once you're like a legal adult, to me, I don't care where you are in your professional career. You have to drop that situation.
Yeah, I think when you're old enough to be able to send emails yourself and you're old
Yes.
enough to book gigs yourself and stuff like that,
16, 17, 18.
you should really start. And again, your parents can be there to help,
Mhm.
can maybe be the roadie that I see sometimes, and they could be whatever. But like really making the decisions or really talking for you, also doesn't give you the opportunity to show who you are. And I know like this is, maybe you're shy, maybe you're kind of scared, and I'm gonna be frank with you, like this is the fucking music industry.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have to, even if you're scared, you're gonna have to do it. Like as talkative as I am and as outgoing as I am, like there's tons of situations where I don't feel comfortable. Like, but it's one of those things where you have to do that, and the next time you're more comfortable and more comfortable. And if you're always hiding behind mom and dad to go talk when you're old enough, or to go book these things or to make those decisions, that's gonna be really tough. And I'm not even talking about like signing contracts and stuff like that. Like obviously you're too young to do that if you're 16, 17, even 18, honestly, even though that you're legally able to do that, you still should, your parents can read it, sure, but your parents should really get a lawyer to make those things happen. You should get a lawyer for it. And I know that maybe you don't have enough money for it, but then save some money up. Do whatever you got to do before you get yourself in a contract that doesn't make a lot of sense just because you're super excited for it. And your parents are like, hey, we're finally going to get out of this suburb to do some really cool stuff because of it. You know, we're going to take a break right here. For our sponsors. First of all, I do want to give a big shout out right now. If you do see the hat that I'm wearing, this is 100% original music. They are not a sponsor of this, but I do want to give a shout out to Mile of Music. We just finished doing a Mile of Music fest with them recently, and they're such a great fest. A really big shout out for them. Go check them out. They're in Appleton, Wisconsin. Anyways, enough of that because they're not really sponsors of this, but they could be. They could be. All right. That's some free press. Anyways, who are sponsors of it? Well, let me tell you. You go to marinacityband.com. That's right, marinacityband.com, where we have merchandise available for you to go check out. We are literally shipping the merchandise out ourselves now. Everything handpicked for you, shipping it out. Actually, in this room, right over there, if you don't see this on the camera, on the other side of this wall, there's all of our merchandise that we're shipping out. So every single dollar, whether or not you get a t-shirt, a hat, a fanny pack, a mug, everything goes towards us to make this dream a reality, and we really appreciate that so we can get out free content like this podcast and other music that we do. On top of that, go make sure that you go check out our Discord. If you go to marinacityband.com, you'll be able to go right to our Discord and meet everyone on there. There's a really cool community of people that are on there from all across the world that are talking about not just Marina City, but your favorite bands that they like, a venting channel, a feeling good channel that you want to gloat about something that's happening in your life. You absolutely can do that on that channel. If you have photos of your pets that you want to share with people around the world, you can absolutely do that in the pet channel. There's even a album club channel, which we basically talk about our favorite albums that came out recently. So go check out the Discord at marinacityband.com. And of course, the best way to connect with us is through our texting line at 815-406-6209. That's 815-406-6209. Text your name, your zip code, and we'll be able to start sending things out to you, such as when new shows are happening, when new merchandise is getting released, when the new podcast is dropping, all those exclusive things on that text line right there. And outside of that, thank you guys so much for your support. Please come out to a bunch of different shows. We got a bunch of shows that are going to be announced very soon. Make sure you go listen to us on Spotify. And that is our sponsor for Confessions of a DIY Musician.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, you really can. You can just go.
You read from that script real well. Like,
was it a script? I thought it
killing
was
that
right
prompt,
off the
bro.
dome. That was impressive.
That is off the dome, right? Toter. That is off the dome.
no, it's right. The prompt is right there.
Oh yeah,
He's
we do
just
have
lying to
we
you
have
guys.
the teleprompter.
Big teleprompter, guys.
Yeah.
And we actually have guys with cards, and they're just like, they weren't moving fast enough.
Yeah, Jeffrey,
Jeffrey.
step your game up.
Jeffrey's always sitting in our van when we leave. So if you ever see our van and you're like, I wonder
Actually,
if no one's in there, Jeffrey's always there.
This would be a good. This would have been a better joke to be like, our parents are actually holding the key.
Yeah, our parents.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom.
But next time, could you just move them a little faster?
Are we having the band meeting after this, Mom? Or are we having it after that? Okay. So just finishing off all this together, I think what's really important is that you growing up in the music industry and failing forward. That is really what I want you to take out of this entire podcast is failing forward and not being afraid to fail. We may have mentioned this in past podcasts, or it's something that we want to talk about, but we rarely ever learn anything from a sold out show or anything like that. Where we learn the most is at a show that no one shows up. What did we do wrong? What can we do differently the next time? Maybe is it that we didn't promote enough? Is it that we didn't our songs didn't come out at the time that we wanted to come out? Did we not release the right song before this? Did we not pick the right bands to play with? Did we not pick the right venue to go to? Did we personally not go reach out to all the people that needed to be reached out to? All those things that we start learning about and figuring out to get better. And so if you're constantly hiding behind a Momager or Dadager when you're way too old to be doing that, maybe you're not truly learning and truly failing forward to figure out what you're going to do next in your career. I think that it's extremely important that all in all, you make the connections yourself. You go and you handshakes and you kissing babies. That's where you're going to make the biggest footprint in this industry. And if you're doing that through your mom and dad, they're not going to like that.
Yeah, I think when you do it through your mom and dad, they're not going to like that. It's important to talk about who they are.
Yeah.
So who is they?
I think other bands.
For sure.
I think other bands are going to be like, sometimes other bands are just jealous. That's straight up.
Well, I mean, sure, but I think they is just the entire industry.
Yeah.
It's just like to me, it's people know when a band is grinding for themselves.
Yeah.
And grinding, like, I don't know. It seems I don't want to be like gatekeepy about it. So, but I do think that there's a right or wrong way to go about doing these things, and to be honest, whether we view it as being gatekeepy or not, frankly, the industry views it this way. Like if you're like a social media personality that does music, it's going to be harder for you to get on a real tour. If you are an actor that starts doing music, it's going to be harder for you to get on a real tour and be a musician. If your parents are the ones who are guiding you through the music industry, it's going to be hard for people to take you seriously. And it's just tough. The fact of the matter is, in those situations, like, it unfortunately doesn't matter how good you are. That stigma is going to be there. And to me, it's like, yes, you could battle against that stigma. And sure, maybe that stigma shouldn't exist. Sure. But the fact of the matter is that it does, and you don't need it. You want to put yourself in the best position to be able to capitalize on who you are and what you're doing, the music that you're making. And to me, like having your parents as a manager is typically not a hill to die on.
Yeah, I mean, your mom and dad can be the ones that are giving you a bunch of advice. I mean, like, you guys are like, hey, I think that maybe this could be great, and maybe it is, maybe it's not. What should I do with that? I don't think you should not talk with your parents. I don't think you should not have them involved if you feel that it makes the most sense. But in the end of the day, it needs to be your face that people are seeing, or a third-party manager that is going to be representing you in front of the industry itself.
Yeah. Your passion is what is really going to carry you through in this industry or any other industry.
Right.
And if anyone is out there championing you harder than you champion yourself, then I think people are going to be like, this is kind of weird.
Right.
Does this person actually want to be here?
Yeah.
So it's there's just going to be a stigma. And you just got to be the one to, like, you have to be the face of what you're doing, and you have to be the face that fails, or the face that succeeds. And if it's your parents standing on the front lines, like, people are going to be like, yeah, this is weird. It shouldn't, you can't be hiding behind your parents. It's
right.
You're got to be the one that's going to succeed or fail.
Absolutely. I think that it is difficult to do because, I look at Jazz sometimes and I'm like, someone's going to break her heart. One day she's going to feel that she's going to look on social media and not feel like she's good enough. And that like something so innocent and as she is, to like one day she's going to be hurt, like, makes me sad. But that is where I, as a parent, have to be like, yeah, it's okay to get hurt. It's what life is. But in like the Rocky, you get punched and it's not about how hard you get punched, about how fast you get up or whatever the case is. And so this is not an easy conversation, and it's better said than done. Like, tell your parents to back off. Like, I totally get it. That's not an easy thing if your parents are really like, I just want the best for you. I just want the best for you. And they do. They really do. They're not trying to be a bad person.
No.
But what's best for you is like, hey, I need to go talk with them. I need to be more involved with it. I can't have you, mom, dad, over there doing all these things with these people, and I'm over here setting up my guitar or whatever. Like, I don't need you representing me in these moments. I need to show that I'm a serious person that should be taken seriously. And I will go talk to you after the show about, hey, what could I have done here? Or, hey, that person seems kind of strange. Maybe that'd be my buffer that I reach out to them like, hey, my dad, these guys are kind of strange. If I'm younger,
let's put it this way. Let's say you work at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Right? Your paycheck is a week late. How weird would it be if your parents walked into that Starbucks and were like, Billy's check is a week late. What's going on here?
Right. Right.
So it's the same thing when you play a show and the promoter doesn't pay you what you agreed to in your contract. And then your parents are the one to show up in that room being like, Billy didn't get what he was promised in the contract.
In sports, when I was growing up in sports, it was always like, why is my son not playing more football? Why is he not in there? Why is he? And then the coach is just like, well, his son's got to work hard. Lindsay gets this issue sometimes with like dance where like, parents would be like, why isn't my kid in this dance? And it's like, do you know like your kid probably doesn't even like dance that much? Or like,
sure,
and sometimes the parents live so vicariously through the kid that it's like you got to back off. And I think that you're absolutely right. The kid's got to come up and say stuff. You're never going to learn. You're never going to grow if you're always behind a wall of something, Anything else that you're feeling? What would you do as a parent, Toter?
As a parent?
Yeah.
In terms of?
If your kid was like, I'm going to do music.
If he asked me to be their manager?
Yeah.
I'd be like, hell no. I am not going to be I don't know shit about managing. I wouldn't. See, like, this is what surprises me.
Yeah.
Is how many of these dadagers and momagers have the confidence to go and think that they can manage someone into a successful career when they have zero experience doing it. Now, I don't know, at least from the outside looking in, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Of course, if you have connections, if you have the things that can actually help your kid's career take off, sure, that's great, but I just feel like there's a bunch of fake confidence and in reality could potentially hurt your child's career and without you even knowing that you're doing so. I think it would probably be best to just let your child create its own wings so they can fly off into their own career, make the mistakes they need to make in order to realize what the right path is. And just like you guys are saying, I mean, you can't properly like take criticism from your parent when it comes down to being your manager.
Right.
When it's one thing when my dad is criticizing me versus a professional manager that there's just like, I don't know, there's like a certain respect level there.
Right.
That I feel like it's higher when there's an actual manager whose job is to further your career.
And maybe you don't have a manager right now, and it's hard to get one. And believe me, we know that we're doing this self-managed right now. But it's about putting people around you that are just not yes people.
Yeah.
And also putting people around you that is not just like absolutely negative. Because there's like I said, the parents that are like way too like, dude, they did a good job. Like, they're like chill, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're only listening to one voice, and especially if it's a parent, especially if it's one that you're living with, especially if it's one that you're, that's really difficult. I mean, this even goes to like, you know, Lindsay, my wife, she's done a lot of work with Marina City in a lot of different things. Maybe she'll help sell merchandise with us sometimes, or she's been in like a music video or whatever. But at the end of the day, like Marina City and her are very separate between us, and I wanted to keep it that way. There's a lot of business people that are like, I don't want my wife, who's also maybe a business person, to be in business together, because then it's always about that, you know. And I think it's nice to have a separation. So going back to parents, it's nice to have, hey, Dad, Mom, this is, you know, I talk to my parents about how every show went. Like they always ask, how did it go? What, you know, I could just talk to them as just like, maybe I vent to them about a show or whatever, and they just have just like a, wow, that's crazy, or, you know, but there's no weight to what they could be saying that could potentially like jeopardize what I'm doing, you know. So.
Yeah, I think to the parents that are listening, if I could give parenting advice as a non-parent,
please.
I would say like be the safety net for your child. You know, be there to catch them when and if they fail, but don't be the ones to prop them up in the first place. You know, like sure, push them gently when they need a little bit of a nudge, but you know, don't prop them up. You're a musician now. Yeah. Boom. There you go.
I will say last story before we wrap it up, because we're getting close to time here. A long time ago, a booking agent, stole $1,400 from us and had us stranded in Austin, Texas. And I'm sure we're going to do a whole podcast episode on that. But what I do want to say, to spoiler alert, is that I went and I literally filed the papers to sue him, and his dad found out about it, and his dad was a cop, and his dad was like, no, don't sue my son. I will pay you the money. Meet me at a Dunkin' Donuts in like this weird place I've never been at. So my parents came with. My parents barely spoke. My parents didn't do, like, it was all me, but my parents were there. They were in the back. They made sure everything was cool. Like everything's good, because even though he said he was a cop, I don't know anything. Yeah. I don't know what this dude is. I don't know anything about this guy. And they were just there to support. I came, I got the check, I talked with them, we shook hands, we left, and I told my parents about what happened, and then like, they did a little flinches at them, and then walked away, you know?
They showed what's under their belt.
They were like, for those listening on the podcast and not see visually, just watch the visual video on YouTube. But
that last part did not happen.
No, that did not. No. But I do want to bring that up. It was like, that was like the perfect example of like, hey, Billy, you didn't pay Billy his money. I went, I made sure this all happened. But as someone was like, hey, you're going to be in a spot you don't know anything about with someone who claims is a cop, and it's, you know, like, and it's telling you to stop suing. We're going to go there. And for whatever reason, the other guys couldn't be there, so my parents came with me.
I mean, we should also point out that at the time you were like 18.
I was also 18, yeah.
So tops.
Yeah, I was 18 tops. Yeah, I was a freshman. So, I just got into college at the time.
So you're a kid. I mean, nowadays,
your parents
wouldn't be in the car now.
My parents are not in the car now. My wife, though, you guys would have to go through Lindsay. She's like, oh, she's the one I'd be scared about. No,
yeah, it wouldn't be. She would be like bazooka.
She's got a bazooka now. But yeah, I guess that is another great example about this, is that even at 18, they did come because I was still pretty young, but at the same time they weren't leading that. And I think that's just the perfect way for parents. It's like, we know you want to be there for your children, and be there. Be there. You don't have to lead them. You're just there for them. So anything last things before we wrap it up?
I'm just picturing Lindsay just in like a bunker. All right, we got danger close. Just ordering drone strikes.
Lindsay's going to be striking before even.
She's like an AC-130 with night vision goggles circling the area.
She's like, just give me the signal.
She's ready.
And just give me the signal. And we didn't say what the signal was, so she thought that moving my arm was a signal. And she's just ready to explode. That's my wife for you. And I know we're making fun, but she really would. She'd do anything for me. And that's she will. So no, she's the best. So anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, saints and sinners, thank you so much for listening to Confessions of a DIY Musician. Please subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify. We are going to put this podcast on other platforms too. It's just really easy to do on Spotify and YouTube. Make sure you go listen to all of our music that's coming out. By the time that you're listening to this podcast, we could probably release a new single. So if we have or haven't, go listen to our music anyways.
We'll have the new album out, and then also the world tour will be announced.
Yeah.
We're manifesting here, guys.
If you guys
I'll have
wanna
a dog.
if there is a specific topic you want to hear from us, please go email us at thecrush@marinacityband.com. thecrush@marinacityband.com. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. It's been awesome. We're going to go rehearse, and we'll see you guys very soon. Adios.
Peace.